Good morning, John.
Good morning. How
Or
are
it's
you?
afternoon. It's afternoon for you.
Yes, indeed.
How you be?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I have some agitation going around in my system for my living situation. So
Oh,
you might pick up I'm a little agitated from time, kind of flowing through my system. And that it's part of just dealing with people that don't come from my trying to maintain some kind of calm in the midst of everything.
right, right.
Yeah, and it's about not trying to project on them, but it's still fucking piss me off if you get my vibe.
I do get your vibe, but you're laughing about it. So I feel
Oh
like
yeah,
several levels going on at once, maybe.
there it is. There it is. That's what I'm working with, several levels. It's kind of, or another metaphor to play like we like to, it's like juggling.
Yes, yes. So let me ask you something. Well, uh, let's see. Douglas can't come. He had a sleepless night with a 4-year-old.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So he let me know. But it is recording now.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I,
I
I
don't.
I sent a link to Seth, and so
Hmm.
he said he was coming. So I
Okay.
expect him here in a few minutes, unless the link doesn't work, which is always
Okay.
so. I found
Okay.
technology is supposed to work, but it often doesn't. And I don't think he's ever visited our site before, so I sent him a link via email. So I hope it works out
Cool. That's good.
okay. Yeah, I'm sorry it started out that way for you. It just happened this morning, this anxiety producing thing.
No, no, it's been going on uh, for a while. Since it hit, my landlord has a higher panic level than I do, and because I live with others, I I operate in using social distancing. I dial it accordingly. I'm very much aware, but he's very influenced by what he's hearing on the news a lot.
Right, right.
So, you know, it's just one of those situations. This wouldn't be in place if I had a place of my own because I could come and go. It's just that I rent, so
Right.
it's just
I hear you. I rent and I live in a building with, oh, I don't know, 30, 40 people, other people.
hmm
So I'm very in close proximity to others all the time.
hmm
And we're all piled on top of each other or above each other or next to each other.
hmm
It's intense. And,
yeah.
and there are millions of us on this little island.
hmm
So we're living in a very always combustible kind of potentially combustible situation. So it's a challenge
It
working.
is. I take the challenge though, because a couple of times, I mean, I'm just being acknowledging that's what's going on, but it's been good practice to how versus 5 years ago, if I didn't have my practices that we talk about on the site and then some I have my own, I would have been a flaming idiot 5 years ago in response.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's actually kind of amazing the equanimity of people
Yeah,
living.
there you go.
Yeah. I think it's when people are up against it.
Yeah.
Uh, they know they have to behave
Mhm.
because it's too unstable. You can
Oh
yell
yeah,
and scream if there's a stable environment, but if the environment's going wacky,
yeah,
you better settle down.
yeah. Well, and I actually count this from what I had to learn from my trauma. I had to reestablish how I relate to my defense mechanism. I had to learn a new upgrade, if you could say, upgrade my defense mechanism because that's what was totally in shock for my trauma. I mean, that's what trauma does to you. And I like Dr. Witt because he talks. I've listened to him that there's a line of intelligence around defense. Our defenses. There's a line of intelligence that we really don't practice with or give it intelligence. We kind of diminish it and he feels that it goes through all the structures. It influences all the structures. That's why a lot of time I'm trying to bring us back to, let's acknowledge that being open is good, but some people's defense system is not ready to be open.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Can you say a little more about that? When people are not
Well,
ready?
state your question again.
Could you
Sorry.
say a little bit more about that? About when people have been traumatized, and there's different levels of
Yeah,
openness, and
yeah.
disclosure sometimes is difficult. Hey, there's Seth.
There's Seth. Hi, Seth. My name's Mike.
Can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, there you go. Hello.
You hear us okay? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Yes.
This is Mike. I'm Mike.
Hey, Mike. How's it going? I'm Seth. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Seth is a colleague of mine. We've been working together a couple of years on clean language.
Excellent. Excellent.
And hypnosis and other stuff. Seth, would you like to say something about yourself? Since this is your first time here? Michael doesn't. And this may be, by the way, this is being recorded, just to let you know.
All right, cool. I don't know how to introduce myself. My name is Seth. I'll have to think about that one. I'll come back to it. I'll just give a caveat that I'm in a shared space with my girlfriend who is in the other room, but is likely to be coming in and out. So I hope that's not too distracting.
Not at all.
Cool.
Otherwise, you're in good spirits?
Relatively, yeah. I didn't sleep very well last night, so I'm a little out of it, but I feel fine.
Yeah, our friend Doug, he won't be joining us. He had a sleepless night with a 4-year-old.
Oh, no.
So I apologize. Yeah, but this will be recorded, so others will be able to watch it.
Sweet.
And I'm really glad to have this opportunity. I don't know exactly where I'm going to go with this, but I'm really open to input from either of you guys. Michael is on the West Coast. You're in California. Where in California, Michael?
Riverside, California.
Oh,
Riverside.
cool.
You
I'm
know
from California.
You're from California. Yeah.
Yep.
Where are you from, Seth? You're upstate, right?
Yeah, I moved to New York from Santa Cruz, and my parents live
Whoa!
even farther up there. Yeah.
So Seth is out in Brooklyn, so he and I often get together, but it's really weird with this moratorium,
Yeah.
this shutdown. No one can go anywhere
Yeah,
without really paranoid or like the police are going to jump on you.
yeah, exactly. It's good to see your face this way, though. It's
It's really cool. This is a real experiment. Let's see. Michael has had some experience with clean language.
awesome.
Yeah, we've done a couple of sessions. And then there's also, I was working with Doug on Friday or Thursday of this week. And he posted some material that came up after that. I don't know if you got a chance. Did you see that, Seth, the Doug?
I did. I watched it yesterday. Yeah, I'm just gonna turn the camera off momentarily so Carol can use the space a little bit, but I'm still here.
Okay. I had that's a great picture of you.
Yeah, that's a great picture.
It's my work photo.
I worked with Doug, and we were calling it, what did we call it? Epistemology and phenomenology of the fifth dimension. A lot of million-dollar words in there. I'm wanting to focus our attention maybe on the interview with Doug. And I also got some feedback about that interview from Marco. So I wanted to look at that.
Cool.
And then I wanted to look at his map, but he's not here, so we're going to skip that. But I just wanted to point out something that let me see if I can find it. Something he reported. No, that's not it. I'm not going to be able to find it. So, but at any rate, this is something that Marco said in response to that. And I'd also like to hear your feedback, Seth, if you want to share anything. This is Marco. He says, I felt like I was not less consuming an audio product and more like immersing in an energetic space. I believe this has something to do with the imaginal body. I would like to reiterate to, to thus amplify John's closing intention that we focus attention on health, sanity, and the sacred in a space where weirdos and visionaries feel comfortable enough to open up to the possibilities of the unusual times we're in now. That was Marco's feedback, and I wanted to thank Marco for that. And also, Doug talked about something that happened after the last interview. He said that there was a dream sequence that he had, and also a waking experience they had with an insect, with a mosquito, some sort of transmission that he was having with the insect kingdom. And he mentioned this followed up by a dream with Jason Giordani, who's the Iranian-American philosopher that we both are following. And he and Giordani in this dream had a very deep philosophical discussion. And they were talking about the plant kingdom. So I'm just riffing on this because I'm thinking about, is there a relationship between what Marco is calling the imaginal body and the immune system? Because I'm thinking a lot about, I'm doing Wim Hof and breath work and Tumo, you know, that Tibetan style breath work. I was in a cold ice water bath for 5 minutes after doing half an hour of breath work. I can report that I'm feeling quite euphoric. So I think so this is my interest really in bringing together different kinds of points of view and persons who are competent enough. We don't have to be sages or anything, but I think that there has to be a certain capacity to be open and to new things, and to be able to be comfortable with differences. So we're all students of Bateson here. I know Seth is, and so is Michael. Michael and I did a reading of a book by Bateson. I can't remember the name. Steps to an Ecology of Mind.
Oh yeah, awesome.
So we all have different backgrounds and different focuses, I guess. But I think there's so many overlaps here, and I just wanted to use clean language as a method for teasing out some of these differences and focusing attention on them, especially in the troubled times that we're living in. And these are maybe spectacularly wonderful times, actually, because people don't have to work and go to jobs. They're stuck at home, but maybe being stuck at home is not such a bad deal. You know, if you have colleagues and allies that you can reach out to, I think this could be a very exciting time. And I'm hearing that, like in Venice, the canals, the water is clean, fish is coming back, swans are appearing, a dolphin was seen.
Wow. Oh my God. It's amazing.
These are amazing, and maybe, who knows? I mean, we may see, I'm hearing birds and seeing birds that I haven't seen in a very long time.
I just thought that this morning. Yeah,
Me too.
And
you know, and so maybe the birds are going to come back. These are all hopeful signs. So if we, you know, and that the airlines are, and the those big cruise ships, the biggest polluters on the planet, they can't do anything now.
Right. Yeah.
So we may be seeing, who knows where this could be, but there may be a feeling of, don't go back to normal. Normal sucked anyway for most people.
Yeah.
I'm speaking for myself. And maybe these opportunities online, we could really start tapping into our potentials, especially for tuning into, you know, the animal kingdom, the other than human, and, you know, the impacts this may have on our collective immune system, the way we think and feel and create metaphors for the immune system. Most of it's a battlefield. And that's the kind of thing I'm up to. So I have a lot of things I could ask, but I'd like to press the pause button and just ask you guys. Maybe we'll start with Seth. Where would you like to start, Seth?
Wow, let me think. Well, I really liked hearing Marco's feedback. It was really cool. And I definitely vibe with what he was saying about how affecting it is just to view this recording of this interaction that happened in the past. While I did some of it, I was drawing for some of it, and you know, my attention's kind of moving back and forth, and I would even at certain points when I didn't feel like I was necessarily consciously registering certain interactions, I would just, the feeling was so immense, you know, it really get me in the heart when it seemed to bypass my mind, I guess. And I really liked his observation that this could be connected to the imaginal body. And I've been doing a lot of stuff myself lately with meditations and theurgical practices. I've been really into iamblichus lately.
Oh,
So
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
yeah, it's been really invigorating my magical practice. And
Wow.
so I've been doing a lot of that in relation to all of this that's happening. And I noticed, at least to myself, I have two poles that I kind of seem to be going back and forth. Is like I'm doing work from a, I guess from a planetary perspective with the sun, because it's like a great healing and enlivening force. And we just passed the equinox, which hopefully could mean that, you know, things are going to be opening up a little bit and getting out of winter. And then I'm doing a lot of work with Saturn, which is obviously like death and wisdom and related to that. And I constantly am myself going back and forth in how I deal with this situation, as far as like, one, I'm like, yeah, I want everything to get better and people to get better and just heal. And then the other part of me is like, well, you have to gain something greater from this, you know, which might not even involve healing at all. So I find this kind of contradiction in myself sometimes looking at it. I forgot what else I was going to say.
It'll come back to you.
I'm sure.
It's all about remembering and forgetting, and remembering that you forgot, you know. Divine amnesia. That's why we're all here, right?
Yeah, sure. Cool.
Okay, Michael, where would you like to start?
Well, I think I'm going to kind of go into where we were talking about something before
Okay.
Seth came on.
Please.
I too resonate really well with what Marco said. He actually said something that I feel that since I've been part of Infinite Conversations has been the case of really paying attention to the energetic exchange across this technology. And it's different than face-to-face. There, you have to acknowledge the different, you know, it's different, but there's still energy. So I still have to use the practices of grounding and giving attention to the quality of my attention. When I watched the video, I do a lot of pausing when like you, Seth, when I feel like something is coming from the heart space, I need to pause and not continue and really work with that, how it's affecting my heart space. And so to lead into what Johnny was asking me about is I've been somewhat agitated because of things over here, and working with people that have doing my best to bring equanimity to people that have different state experiences than I do. I've done a lot of work because I have trauma with state experiences. That's really tying into working with state experiences either through meditation, somatic body work, Reggie Ray's work as far as meditation and working with the body. So one of the things that Johnny and I was talking about is I just listened to a podcast by Dr. Witt on Indigo Life. He was talking about, and like me, he comes from an experience of having been bullied and going through martial arts and how to defend yourself, not from a place of rage, but with some kind of code, you know. And so he did a podcast on how we have to practice awareness with defensive states that we fall into. And it's not just in terms of protecting our own body, but when somebody feels differently than us. you can feel a defensiveness come up because tying it into the brain and the reptilian, that's its job to feel difference. And but sometimes we don't know, well, how haven't assessed how threatening is it. You know,
Sure.
somebody calling me an asshole that I don't know isn't the same as my son calling me an asshole.
Right. Of course.
You know, you know, I'm, you know, there is a relatively of a relational, you know, it's relative depending on the relationship you're in, I think, you know, and he happens to, which I tend to agree, that how this affects all the structures or levels of development, that no matter what level you're at, this defensive part is still going to be a part of that where you're at. And so I've spent probably a lot last 20 years, like I told John, of getting a new upgrade on my defensive system because I had a trauma where I went over the edge in a tractor and basically thought I was dead.
Well,
And also I had another experience 14 years before that where I attempted suicide. So it's like my nervous system has been talking to me a lot
sure.
along those lines, but all this stuff with Johnny on the cafe and what I've done before has been an intense study of, and you pointed to this, what is the healing to come out of my trauma? So
This is,
Cool.
that's where I'm at.
I'm going to jump right in with a clean question. And defensive states. And when defensive states, what would you like to have happen?
You're asking me, Johnny, right? Okay, I just want to be sure. What I would like to have happen is an equanimous response.
An equanimous response?
Yeah,
Is there anything else about equanimous?
I would like it to be mutual.
And you would like it to be mutual. And when equanimous response, and you would like it to be mutual, whereabouts equanimous?
All over my body and inside my body.
All over my body and inside my body. And when all over my body and inside my body, where inside?
You have to go with the heart space.
And equanimous all over my body and inside. And you have to go with heart space. Is there anything about heart space when equanimous?
I'm going to use a image that you and I've told you before. Jellyfish just floating.
Jellyfish just floating. And when jellyfish just floating, what does jellyfish want to have happen?
It actually doesn't worry about what's happening. It is happening.
It is happening. And mutual. And equanimous and mutual. And is there anything else about mutual?
At this time, I have to say I don't know. I just don't know.
Is it okay if we pause?
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thank you. And Seth, I had a whole lot of, I wasn't able to track how many questions I asked, but I'm wondering if we can find a way of working here where we could go meta to the process
Sure.
as a modeler and a co-explorer. And Michael is the co-explorer, right? Or he's the focus of our attention as modelers.
Sure.
He's modeling himself, and I'm modeling him, modeling himself.
Mm-hmm.
And a meta person, which could be you or myself, could be, you would, for instance, be looking at my behaviors and my patterns as I'm modeling
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Michael.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you would be tracking the questions I use, where the choice points,
Mm-hmm.
and I would like it if you could use clean language to get that information. So, okay, you asked a developing question, or you could go back, and equanimous and mutual, and whereabouts is that was the question.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened right before you asked
Oh, cool.
whereabouts is that? Then so we would be giving each other clean feedback, and I could do that with you as well. You could ask some clean questions of Michael, and I would be tracking what your behavior was, your external behavior, and I could ask you then questions about your internal process as you were modeling Michael.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds like fun. That's a cool point of focus. I think for what I was just doing now is I was just kind of like just riding along because everything you were saying, Michael, was so cool. Like the
Thank
next answer was like, wow, I'm just kind of riding the boat, so to speak. But I like that strategy, John.
Yeah, yeah. So that sounds good too. We can play with this.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you and I, and this is new for us, Michael, because he and I haven't worked together as co-modelers.
you. Okay.
Oh, maybe we have a couple of times. I think we've had guests where we
Yeah, I think Solomon and Jesse also did
Yeah.
those guys. I wonder, you guys, if I was thinking I would just take like because taking notes when you're doing clean language so you can track back on the computer, but if the typing gets distracting, I can go find a piece of paper too.
It's up to you. It's up
Okay.
to you.
I'll try the computer, and if it bothers you guys afterwards, just let me know.
Yeah, whatever is easiest for you. Okay. Now, first of all, since we're gonna go for hours today, so we have about an hour and a half. What I would like to do is to do a little exercise, which I've done with Seth many times. You know that 5 senses exercise, Seth?
Yeah.
We could do this with Michael. This is a
Sure.
warm. I think it also creates a synesthesia. So I'm going to call it out. I'm going to give him the prompt, and you could ask a few developing questions if you will, Seth. And I will be. Okay. So Michael, are you up for this? I'm just going to ask you.
All right. Okay. Explain it a little bit. What is my part, John? I'm not sure.
I'm just going to give you a prompt. And
Okay.
you can respond, and Seth is going to ask you a few clean questions.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Just to develop it a little bit.
Okay.
And I think at the end of the exercise, we'll get some feedback to one another.
Okay.
Cool.
See an elephant.
And when see an elephant, is there anything about elephant?
Friend.
Friend. And elephant and friend. And when friend, what kind of friend is that friend?
Longtime friend. Ancient friend.
And ancient friend. And when longtime ancient friend, whereabouts is ancient friend?
In the land of Tarzan.
In the land of Tarzan. And ancient friend and elephant. And when in the land of Tarzan, does land of Tarzan have a size or a shape?
It probably does, but it's so huge I can't get a grasp on it.
That's good. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hear music.
And hear music. And when hear music, what kind of music is that music?
Van Morrison playing the blues.
And Van Morrison playing the blues. And when Van Morrison playing the blues, is there anything else about blues?
It's healing.
It's healing. And playing the blues. And when it's healing, what happens after it's healing?
I can get up and walk around the world.
And I can get up and walk around the world. And healing and walk. And when get up and walk around the world, whereabouts is world?
This planet.
This planet.
Thank you.
Cool.
Is that okay to pause? Okay.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Michael, feel velvet.
And feel velvet. And
Making love to my ex-wife.
and making love to my ex-wife. And feel velvet. And when making love to my ex-wife, is there anything else about love?
Getting lost.
And getting lost. And when getting lost, what happens just before getting lost?
Wiggle, giggle.
And wiggle, giggle.
And where does wiggle giggle come from?
All from the Hartha all the way up to the top of my head.
Oh, from the heart all the way up to the top of your head.
No, actually from the visceral too. From the Hartha.
The heart.
From the bowl. From the
Okay.
bowl. All the way up to the top of the head. It's like this, John. I'm going to give you a visual. All the way up.
That's great. Thank you, Michael.
Nice.
Thank you, Seth. I'll do the next one if I may.
Yeah.
Smell smoke.
Cooked bacon.
And when cooked bacon, whereabouts is that?
In the kitchen.
In the kitchen? And when in the smoked bacon in the kitchen, is there a size or shape to that smoke?
It's probably a fourth the size of the kitchen.
A fourth the size of the kitchen. Thank you. Taste lemon.
Did you say lemon?
Mhm.
Oh. Lemon pie.
And when lemon pie, whereabouts lemon pie when you taste lemon pie?
My grandma's kitchen.
Grandma's kitchen. And is there anything else about Grandma's kitchen?
Safety and warmth.
Safety and warmth. Thank you. So that was a little exercise that I learned from Kate Walker. I think she's a very good developer of clean language. And I just wanted to offer you a chance to give us some feedback on this. If there's something that you learned from doing this exercise or that you've learned, Seth, from doing this exercise again, I think it would be fun for us to give each other some feedback. How about you, Michael? Shall we start with you?
Oh, fine. Yeah, I didn't know who you were going to start with. My feedback is those questions directly stimulate. It's amazing. I feel so connected to my body to be able to answer those questions without thought. I mean, the words just come without having to when I pause, I'm not thinking, I'm actually feeling into the image you're asking me about.
Great.
It was a good exercise. I talk about my agitation going down about 5 notches. It did by those questions.
Oh, cool.
Very cool.
That's, yeah. I
How about you?
remember, well, I remember when we did those with Marco when he came to New York. And I feel like I remember that when he was talking about the elephant one, either we all ended up chuckling, or at least I was chuckling, because it just brings you along to this really fun place he went to. But I think looking at them now, I think like from a technical perspective, they're interesting, because a lot of times when you do clean language, like work with people, especially if you're working on personal issues, like say you're working on a problem someone has with them, because we're often kind of locked in certain mental patterns which is why we can't see around or out of a thing that we're in from time to time. And a lot of people have difficulty escaping that, even doing clean language. So people have difficulty getting to the symbolic part or unconscious stuff, or kind of the playfulness that comes with it, or whatever. So, or like, for example, if someone says, I don't know, sometimes I'll ask, is there anything else about I don't know? And some people will be like, oh yes, it's blurry, or there's more information will come out. And some people, no, I don't know, bam, which is fine. But some people have a lot more difficulty being mobile in these spaces that arise. And I think these questions are cool because they're not immediately directly engaging with like impacted parts of our lives, like, tell me about your grandmother. Really though, like, it's just like, oh, velvet, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like a good opening point.
I just want to, it's interesting you brought that up, because as you were talking, Seth, I think it goes to my point that part of that is how well, I think one of the reasons I can do that is I've relearned how to relate to my defense system, because the questions can activate a certain level of defense. And I'm just popping with a possibility is some of our defense habits are grounded in childhood. And when a child is being questioned, and especially by a parent, it leaves a trace of defense, not like when we're adults and we're supposed to embrace questioning. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I remember, I don't know if I told you this, John, but when we worked with my friend Jesse, he wrote, because he's a writer, and so he was writing a graphic novel, and there's a scene in it, it's about a year after we worked with him, where a person is going through a clean language process, and it's very traumatizing for him. And the result, he gets some kind of, I forget the word for this, but he gets some kind of condition where then his neck is just trapped looking sideways for the rest of his life. And I'm like, is this what you got out of that experience?
That's great feedback.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to that, because I think there's something, this is sort of a conversational mode, and then we can go back into the clean language, and we can come back out into a conversational mode. As you may notice, both of you, there is a transition between the ordinary conversational, oh yeah, I get it, I don't get it, oh no, that reminds me of something that happened to me. That kind of normal conversation we have, where we're projecting our views on others, and they're projecting onto us, and we have to sort of figure it out, what the proper attitude should be. And then there's clean language, which is a very different kind of language, use of language.
Yeah.
And it's almost a transition that I feel. And my metaphor here is moving from the Mississippi River in a freighter to the Atlantic Ocean, which I've done actually. In the freighter, the Mississippi River is very narrow towards the end of it. And it's really, really bumpy. And you're in this freighter, which picks up every fucking vibration in the river, right? And so
Wow.
it's like this. And all of a sudden, then you hit the Atlantic. And then it goes something like this.
Wow. Wow.
Feel how deep this fucking ocean is. and then the boat starts to do this. You know, so it's a very different kind of energetic. And I feel that way, that many of our conversations, when we're in a conversational mode, is very much like this. And then all of a sudden, when we go into clean language, it gets, and all of a sudden, you're starting to pick up on a whole different field of information. How about you, Seth? Do you have a metaphor for doing clean language?
I think I do, yes. But I wonder if before I can do that, if I could just ask you a question.
Please.
Because that was really cool. So when feeling every bump like this, and then when whereabouts is feeling every bump?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, the feeling of a bump becomes when it's sort of like a memory of a bumpy ride, and anticipating a trip across the Atlantic, which I had never done, right, in that particular instance. So there's a bit of anticipation. Also, the first time I'd ever gone to Europe. But then all of a sudden, something surprising happens, like the ocean. The motion of the ocean, which is sort of like, oh, well, I've read Moby Dick and all these tales of the oceans and things like that, and all of a sudden you're in it. You know? It's a very different experience from reading about it. So I feel that kind of grand openness of the ocean and remembering what it was like to be, I don't know why I'm saying this, landlocked. You know, it's a very startling kind of contrast. And sort of, actually, I can sense this as you're helping me deepen the metaphorical resonance. I can sense my attraction to doing clean language is, I want to get back to the ocean. I'm tired of being landlocked with other people, doing this. All this, and then but there's a different way of using language that I think can create oceanic bliss and tremendous beauty and pleasure. Language can create conditions for that, but we don't use it that way very often. We use it to fight, argue, create, winners take all, that kind of thing, as we all know very well. But there are other uses of language, poetry and art, and good therapy, when it is good therapy. Most therapy, in my experience, has not been that good. But I think these are the differences that make a difference. So I really appreciate, Seth, that you brought my attention to what I was giving my attention to. So it's a very subtle, and you did it with linguistically. You also did it with gestures that you were mirroring me. And I felt, because I can see your head and your shoulders, and I can imagine what the rest of you is doing. If we're in the same room together, it's a different thing.
Sure.
But we're communicating now through these flat screens. So this is interesting to me as a sort of research project, is the effects flat screens have on our affect and our communications in general. But also, you and I have only, up until this point, known each other in real time and in real world.
Yeah, we've threatened to do the flat screen thing many times, but I don't think it ever happened before.
Now we have to do it. So this is our first flat screen encounter. But for Michael, I've never known him except on a flat screen, because he lives in California. So these are the
Interesting.
kind of things that I find extremely, I think Marshall McLuhan would love this kind of stuff,
Oh yeah, that's
because we're doing,
awesome.
whether we want to or not, we're doing media studies.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I
Cool.
think we may be doing this on a very large scale, because now we don't have any other way to communicate with lots of people except with the flat screen, because they basically shut down Manhattan
Yeah.
and I guess Brooklyn as well. So
Yeah.
it's all the same. Anyway, I'm just sharing that with you because that's another layer of fascination I have with these kind of opportunities. And as we're also busy and we all have so many appointments to keep and so many commitments and work and all that, as you know, Seth and I, we live in this big city where people are a city of strangers, right? It's really hard to get people together. And when you can get them together, to pay attention, because they're scattered so many different directions. And I think it's been amplified considerably by, you know, the screen culture. But maybe we can use this screen culture that we're all members of now in ways that we hadn't before.
Hmm.
So I love these opportunities to, you know, explore, experiment, then go back into the real world, what's left of it, and figure out how can I make arrangements with those people, and those people, I'm pointing over here behind me, that are more creative, more interesting, so that you know, we can have some interplay between the virtual and the subtle and the physical. Because I've shared this with you, Seth, and Michael and I, we've had enough exchanges too. I think this is all in our, we're all paying attention to this, how we're being shaped, and we are shaping this technology by our use of it. And we don't want to be manipulated by nefarious forces. And I think this is the challenge of how can we resist when that's happening. And I believe the best way to do it is to know what your desired outcome is, share that, create metaphors, share those, and hopefully we can re-educate ourselves and reorganize our behavior in ways that are more life-affirming than having to obey some stranger's metaphor, some CEO who's going to call all the shots. So anyway, you guys, I appreciate this, and that we are able to go over this exercise. And I have a few questions, I don't know, about how we can best use our time. And this next hour and 15 minutes, I have two things I would like to do, and I don't know what you guys would like to do. We may be able to do both of these possibilities. Work with Michael and that and win defense system and equanimous and mutual and in the heart and a jellyfish, and it's happening. We could go back into that landscape, which has already started, and we could swap back and forth from being a meta person to being a modeler, and that would be fun. And also, I have something's come up a couple of times. We talked about healing, and I'm wondering if maybe we could develop this a little bit. And when healing at your best, that's like what? We could do it in a round. I've never done this before. I don't know if you probably haven't either.
That's pretty cool.
That's a good one, John.
Because we need to boost all of our immune systems, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So does that sound good to you too, Michael?
Yeah, I just want to kind of just put out there, I haven't worked with the clean language questions in a long time since last, so I'm really rusty. I just want to acknowledge that.
That's right.
Okay.
And you don't have to worry about that. Seth and I will be responsible.
I appreciate that. I don't need any more pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been several times when John and I haven't seen each other for maybe a few months or something, and I haven't done any clean language stuff since. And then what I would just do is I just get the questions in front of me. And the good thing about them too is if you can't figure out which one to ask, you just kind of pick one out and it always works.
Yeah.
Especially if you're working with me.
Yeah. John gives so much material.
Yeah, and
God.
I think also Michael is very adept at entering into his metaphorical landscape.
Hmm.
He doesn't spend a whole lot of time in concept land. Like a lot of people will like, you ask them for a metaphor and they will go into every theory they've ever read
Sure.
about just about anything. And then you have to sort of, and is there anything else about this? Is there anything else about that? And it may take them a little bit of time, you know, to put their toe in the water and feel like the temperature's just right. And so they'll go into that sort of open-ended kind of question rather than, oh, I want a question that I already know the answer to. Because you feel that tension sometimes.
Yes, right.
People immediately, oh no, that's scary. I don't know anything. I don't know how this conversation is going to go, and I have to sort of say, okay, that's fine, you know. But we're not really doing a conversation. We're doing something different that is related to conversation, and actually, I think enhances our capacity to communicate well in ordinary.
No, and I agree, John. I think that's I think I told you that a lot of one of the reasons I'm able to do that is I come from the Eugene Glendale focusing method. And then when I've encountered you, it's like I've made a hybrid kind of thing, like you're saying, trying to consider them. So my relationship to language, the method that's influenced me is the focusing method, just to put that out there. But doing your clean language work with you is actually helped me hone in certain ways, hone that.
Yes, family. There's a family resemblance with clean language and focusing for sure. So having said all that, maybe we could do a little healthy at your best. That's like what? Maybe Seth, could you guide me in that and maybe just ask a few clean questions to just develop it?
Yeah.
And then we could do a round.
Sweet. Okay. All right, let me just...
Oh, and Michael, when we're working, you can be the meta person. You don't have, there's no pressure on you at all. You don't have, but you may want to comment afterwards about what you saw.
Okay.
Or what
Okay.
Or if you feel like asking a question, you're like, oh, where is that? Just go for it.
Okay, I'll feel into the right timing for that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
When we're finished.
Yes, right.
Thank you. Okay, I'm ready.
All right. And John, healing at your best. And when healing at your best, that's like what?
Wow, it's kind of weird. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I feel like it's a great big starry dome, like the heavens above on a dark night with lots of stars. I want to say starry, starry night, but that's kind of corny because I think someone else has already done that. But it is sort of like, it has that hallucinogenic kind of, well, actually, it's sort of like a lucid dream. Yeah.
Sort of like a lucid dream. And starry dome. And heavens above. And healing at your best. And when sort of like a lucid dream, what kind of lucid is lucid dream?
Wow, it's a very expansive state as I start to realize how my mind is released from the constraints of the physical world. And all of a sudden, I am everywhere all at once. Wow, this is getting really weird. And there's the laws of gravity no longer apply,
Mhm.
and I can intend to make certain things happen
Hmm.
that could not happen in the constraints of the physical body. So I'm also aware that as fun as that can be, there's something more important.
Mm.
That's what's behind all of this phenomenal display.
Hmm.
There's an intelligence behind it or beyond it. This is my belief system. Because we've read a lot of Plato, right? So I'm definitely into this ascending current here. And if I can steady myself, I can articulate a question, then something happens, which is even bigger than a lucid dream.
Hmm.
It goes way beyond just a lucid dream into something I would call more OBE, more out of body.
Hmm.
And then even beyond that. And then you get a hard time putting anything into words. But it's sort of like that.
Mm. And a hard time putting anything into words.
Yeah.
And beyond that, way beyond that, and bigger than a lucid dream, and healing at your best. And when all of this and beyond that, then what happens?
Interesting. I'm feeling all my chakras above my head are opening up. I think there are about 6 of them. They're all going up. And by the way, this is much cheaper than doing any drugs. Just a few clean language questions. I'm already there.
Wow. And about 6 of them opening up. And when about 6 of them and above my head and opening up, is there anything else about chakras?
Well, they're moving up and down my spine as well, back and forth and side to side, around and around. So the body is, this is kind of weird to say this, but I feel like the body is the effect of the other than physical.
Mm-hmm.
And that the other than physical, very subtle, interpenetrates the physical sensorium and activates certain capacities that may be latent. Some of them may be already well developed, but that the physical body is not the source or the cause. The physical body is an effect of the subtle. So this, of course, is a belief I have, but it's also a belief based upon the experience that I've had. And I believe that in the context of healing, it can be this is also hard to put in words, but there's something, these out of body or lucid out of body experiences actually, when you return to the body with a certain kind of awareness, there is an imprint upon the physical. So I believe these are necessary, not sufficient maybe, but they're certainly necessary, these other than ordinary states of consciousness, for the evolution of the immune system, but of every other system that humans are engaged in or are working with.
And necessary for the evolution. And an imprint, and activates capacities. And when an imprint, where is imprint?
This is really weird, guys. I feel like I have a reptilian kind of amphibian, maybe kind of past life, but it's definitely it's sort of sponsored by the spine. Spine, I feel, I'm sort of drawing on my memories here, but the spine is a sort of fossil, and it kind of remembers. It activates certain kind of memories. So I feel like I don't remember what your question was, but that there's this strong pre-human body knowledge that somehow, that is very weird, I feel like there's a kind of communique that's occurring.
A kind of communique that's occurring. And when a kind of communique that's occurring, then what happens?
I'm somatizing this because it's just much easier than talking about it, but I can talk about it and somatize it at the same time. It really feels very much like a kind of rebirthing kind of thing, like a like that, like you're coming out of an eggshell or something. It's kind of I feel like I feel like I've broken through an egg and I'm a little alligator kind of thing. Sort of, I'm in the slime, off and running, doing my reptile thing.
Wow. Cool. Is this a good place to pause, John?
Sure.
I just realized I didn't, since we didn't touch base about how long we wanted to spend on each of these, I just wanted to.
That was fine.
But if we got more, we can jump right back into that one too. If we want
Sure. That was very weird.
to. You were going somewhere.
Yeah. But I'm really grateful that you're assisting me, because when I have like Seth is very practiced in this, I can then drop my defenses against what I already know, because I don't have a social context for it, which would support it. Or, I think our socialization runs so deep that it actually prevents us from imagining anything except what's socially accepted.
100% agree, John.
So this technique helps me bypass my own enculturation. And I start to, oh yeah, I've been a lizard, a snake, a reptile before. It's right there. And I've embodied it. I can embody it, re-embody it. And I think that this gives me a space where I can safely explore these very weird liminal zones and hopefully integrate it enough so that
that's important. Hopefully integrated. I think that's sometimes that can be difficult to integrate it. I mean, with you're so practiced, it's probably a less difficult than most people, I would say. One of the things that I found interesting watching you and listening to you, it brought back memories of being a 4 or 5-year-old child, where you don't have that social conditioning and you can act like a lizard, you can act like a puppy, or stand like a tree, which I think is very, the freshest, where we're connected to creation as a whole. Because I found that a lot of what you were bringing out was just your own personal description. This is what creation is, from your own personal point of view.
That's right. And 4 or 5-year-old child.
Yeah.
I think that's the age range.
Hmm.
I feel like I often go when I'm in this clean language process,
Right.
but I'm with another person, which is great because I know Seth is the adult here. I can go to 4 or 5, and he's going to watch out for me if anything
Yeah,
goes wrong.
and I think that's important because you had several words, metaphors that actually um, connect with that defense system that's
That's
both natural and then enculturated. So there's a natural defense system of the egg where mammals don't have a shell. You know what I'm saying? And and so yeah, you were working with both. And I think my point was I got lost a little bit. Is a lot of this centers around with no blame. I'm just looking at the dynamic. How safe were we as children in the presence of our caretaker? And I emphasize no blame because they too were traumatized or something happened to them.
Mhm.
And when I went through my trauma, I did a lot of work of not blaming my parents, but looking at what they did that left scars, but
Mm.
without blaming, so that I could unburden them, unburden myself. Doesn't mean I didn't like it. This is one thing I didn't have to like it. I just had to understand how it affected me,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah,
It
that's
does.
great. That's great.
That's great feedback. And Seth, anything you want to add before we maybe turn to Michael and we could develop Michael's healing?
Yeah. Um, well, let me think. So, a lot of times when doing modeling with someone, um, like I know especially when we've worked with someone else, there's been several times where John will look at me and go, location, for example, because he wants to ask in that example, a location-based question, because then that will get them to, the person kind of starts working spatially and stuff like that, and kind of, to use a metaphor, starts to anchor this environment. The interesting thing about working with you, John, generally, and in this situation especially, is you establish all of that stuff. So I don't necessarily have to ask a question like that. I mean, I still will try to if it seems right, but you give space for things, you put them around you or within you, you give time to them, things evolve. It really is, you set up an entire world. It's like I'm reading, you talk about Plato again, it's like I'm reading the Timaeus or something. The whole thing's there.
That's funny. And that's interesting because I was just working with someone who has a very well-developed inner world. And she was, I didn't have to, I asked her like one clean question. All of a sudden she was laying out
Wow.
this gigantic landscape and very rich.
Hmm.
And I realized it's a very different thing than working with someone who's very, cognitively constipated and to another theory, God help you. and when you get them to go into a symbolic landscape, it can be very liberating for them because they've been so constipated in the cognitive for so long.
Right.
And there's
right.
definitely a vibration between the cognitive and the somatic. And when those systems start flowing, that's very dynamic.
Yeah.
But this person I was working with, I was like, oh, wow, I'm already in there with her in this landscape. And I don't need to ask her much because she's developing it and modeling herself.
That's
I think
great.
but then those are different kinds of demands on the modeler
Mm-hmm.
because those are different kinds of requirements that the client or the focus of your attention, your job basically is just to pay attention to what they're paying attention to. And when you know what they're paying attention to, you can say, and there's this you can pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll go, oh yeah. And so it's not a totally neutral question. Clean language is not neutral.
Yeah.
It's actually, I think it's open-ended.
Mm-hmm.
It's not pre-programming anything, but it's just, I can't direct or redirect attention unless I know what they are paying attention to, and then I can redirect it. But it's basically establishing, as you said, a location, finding a location. Whereabouts is that? Does it have a size or shape? Is it on the inside or the outside? Once you have all of that, then you can start creating, oh, how is this related to that?
Right.
How is that related to that? And when that changes, how does this change? So then you can mature all those different changes. And then I believe you can move closer towards the next stage, which should be creating conditions for the getting the outcome that you hopefully have specified. But that's not always necessary. I don't think you can always have an outcome. Sometimes people take a long time to get to an outcome, a desired outcome. You can work with solutions, you can work with problems. But I think this was interesting because we were just working on a metaphor for healing, and you opened up all this space for me. And I believe this is great because I don't get to do this too often. I'm usually on the other side of the camera. In other words, you know, I'm usually the one who's modeling. But it's great for me to have this kind of leisure to go into my own process. And this is not something, Michael, that I find frustrating is conversation as we've been socialized does not allow for this too much.
No, and I agree, John. I agree.
It's hard. It's hard. Yeah.
It's hard, but you know, from my work and working with you, I actually am a radical rascal that I'm going to introduce it in normal conversation, just subtly, because and when you were talking, I wanted to ask you, it just popped into my head that what I feel is the overlap with focusing and clean language. Another metaphor is attunement. How do we attune? And that feels, you know, gravitates to the metaphor of a radio like Ed uses, you know, and that entails listening. I think that's one of the reasons that conversation today, it's so, especially in America, is so front loaded. I got to get out what I want to say, and there's not a lot of developed, deep listening or good listening. And I'll bring in a concept from somebody that helps: non-defensive listening. Non-defensive listening, because we do listen. Even our listening can be affected by our defensive system.
That's right. That's right. And how do we attune in between focusing and clean language and deep listening? I apologize. I'm modeling people all the time.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of food for thought there. And I think you're already, and I would say this is an example of taking a meta perspective. Michael's taking a meta perspective on, he knows focusing, he's had experience with clean language, and he's looking at attunement and that deep listening that can happen in both of those disciplines and what's happening between them. So I think this is where I'm really interested in bringing different practitioners from different walks of life together and asking them clean language questions about their particular discipline. And then start to go to a transdisciplinary level when we get enough, oh, this is this person's metaphor, this is that person's metaphor, that's that person's metaphor. And when we have all those different metaphors in the same space, I believe we could start reorganizing our ability to educate one another and each other and ourselves in more effective ways than we are right now. And we're all living in these silos that we're all specialized. And I know my little bitty thing here, and I know nothing about your thing, and I don't even know what questions to ask of that other person. And that's why I think another level of usefulness of this approach is how do we model experts in ways that they've never been modeled before. Because most of the time, the experts already know what you're going to ask them, and they've already given a prescriptive response.
Right.
Yeah, and then talk about lockdown. They're already locked down.
Yeah, there's a metaphor that reminds me of was when I was taking Tai Chi classes probably like a decade ago. I had this instructor who was really skilled in one way. I mean, he was also very bigoted in another way, but we all have our own issues. But the skilled part was because he would talk about, he's like, so I'm teaching you the forms so you can work with them and learn them, but we're all exercising our own chi already in our own way. So he was always kind of emphasizing that you're very good at doing Tai Chi as you. We're just trying to open ourselves up and whatever we're trying to do. So everyone was meeting together with their own methods of using their energy. And then in doing so, we had this kind of odd side effect happen where about halfway through the class, we were talking and we realized that almost half of the class, I mean, it was a small class, so like maybe 15 people total, but almost half of the class had spontaneously gone vegetarian inexplicably. And we were like, wow, our energies really meshing here. But it was cool because it was like an example of, individual stuff happening and collective stuff happening at the same time.
That's right.
Yeah. Tai Chi is a great thing.
And that's what I think we're doing in these small world networks is we are enhancing, we're tuning to one another, and we're doing these experiments, safe to fail experiments. And then we go out into the so-called real world and see what impacts happens. And then that's interesting. Let me bring that back to this space and develop it more, rather than trying to scale it up to the, to the Congress or to the United Nations. Fuck them. I think that's a waste of time at this point. Whereas we already have everything we need. This is my belief. We just need to pay attention to our own somatic intelligence and our own cognition, because we really have a lot of untapped potential. So I really welcome, once again, this opportunity. And I have to redirect my attention to Michael right now with Seth's assistance. And maybe we could work with, do you want to continue, Seth, to interview Michael, and I'll take a meta perspective?
Sure.
And then we'll do you, okay?
All right, let me get my little notepad going here. Okie dokie.
I love that phrase.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So, healing at your best. And when healing at your best, then what happens?
There's less of a wobble in my whole body. There's less wobbling. It's like when I'm healing at my best, the wobble has slowed down.
And the wobble has slowed down. And when the wobble has slowed down, is there anything else about slow?
It feels good. It's less. There's intensity without. There's a kind of intensity without it being manic. It's more, intensity has become focused rather than manic.
And has become focused rather than manic.
Yes, that's real important. It's less manic.
And really important.
Yeah.
And when less manic and focused, what kind of focused is that focused?
Harvest Moon, Neil Young.
Harvest Moon, Neil Young. And when Harvest Moon, Neil Young, where is Harvest Moon?
Right in front of me.
Right in front of me. And Harvest Moon, and right in front of me. And when right in front of me, is there anything else about right in front of me?
There's more wonder in life and less terror.
Mhm. And more wonder in life and less terror.
Yeah.
And Harvest Moon. And does Harvest Moon have a size or a shape?
Yes, it does. And um, it's the shape of a full moon on a harvest night.
Mm. And a full moon on a harvest night. Yes.
May I?
You may.
That was great. And harvest moon on a full night. And more wonder in life. And feels good. Slows down. Less wobble. And with all of that, what happens to defense system?
They do not go away, but they're not on red alert.
They do not go away. And they are not on red alert.
Mm-hmm.
And is there anything else about they?
There's a feeling of wholeness that is, there's a feeling of wholeness that it's okay to have defense system. It's okay. It's okay.
And it's okay. And when it's okay, is there anything else about it's okay?
Yeah, the fucking wiggle giggle comes back.
The wiggle giggle comes back.
It's not a wobble, it's a wiggle giggle.
Mm.
The wiggle giggle. And is that a good time to pause?
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Seth. And I'm going to go into a meta perspective here with Seth and wondering about his process. Anything else? I don't know exactly how to do this, so I'm learning how to be a good meta person.
Yeah.
Michael was saying less of a wobbling, slowing down, and you asked a developing question. Anything else? And what happened right before asking anything else?
Mm. Where did I ask anything else?
But the first question was, and when healing at your best, that's like what, I think was it.
Mm.
And then he talked about there's less of a wobbling.
Yep.
I think he talked about wobbling. There's less of a wobble
Yep.
and slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
And you asked, is there anything else about slowing down?
Right.
And so I'm just wondering, is there anything else about your process when asking Michael, is there anything else? Is there something in between there? Maybe not.
Let me see.
There is.
So there I was, watching Michael give his metaphor with his hand.
And you did too.
Yep.
I think
and
you made a gesture too. You
too.
mirrored it.
Yep. Try to receive it and reflect. And the verbal piece of information I had before me was wobble slowing down. And so I'm looking at that, and the things that seem operative in my mind there is you could ask about wobble, or you could ask about the action of the wobble. And for some reason, unbeknownst to me at this moment, slowing down seemed to capture my attention more.
And when slowing down seemed to capture your attention more, is there anything else about that attention?
It is a feeling attention, kind of maybe like a tickle, in that
Tingle?
it's a tickle,
Tickle.
in that it's subtle, but something is there, and I can't describe it, but it comes into attention.
A tickle and subtle and can't describe it. And when you can't describe it, what would you like to have happen?
I would like to ride along.
Right along. Thank you. And you asked, let's see, anything else? What kind of? Where is? Anything else? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A size and a shape. You asked 5 developing questions. And I think, okay. So thank you.
Yeah.
And maybe we can, this is going from a first order to a second order. And this next thing I'm going to ask you is going to a third order. Can you give me some feedback on my feedback?
Oh,
you don't have to if you don't want to.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is what you said earlier about when you were like, Seth can be the adult here, which is what I feel like, because it's so nice doing clean language with someone that you trust, because I mean, I don't know if you could do it if you didn't trust them. I don't know. I've never done that. But because you really can let them do the driving and you just kind of be guided or whatever it is. And I really enjoy hearing that you paid attention from kind of a more technical manner, and that you're like, there's 5 questions, these are what they are at these points. What did you feel like when this one happened? Or I forget the question you asked. What was it like when it happened or something?
Yes.
But yeah, really, it feels, the feeling I get from it is a supportive one. Like it really feels like, okay, we got some stability here.
That reminds me of a dream. You said how that feeling of trust gives you a sense of someone else is doing the driving and you can relax. I had a dream once, and I was in a bus, and there was a bus driver, and I became lucid. And I went up to the bus driver and I tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, "Who are you?" And he turned around and he looked at me and says, "Well, that's a hard question to answer because I have no identity." And he looked like a cubist painting. You know, his faces are like different planes and different dimensions.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
And I woke up like this. I woke up extremely amused, but also a little disturbed. Like, oh, there's no one driving this cosmic bus.
No one driving the cosmic bus. That's great.
But that's what I was flashing on as we went meta, meta, meta.
Yeah. Wow. I also had a metaphor I thought of because when you came in, you asked a question referring to previous modeling we had been doing in this conversation. Mm-hmm. So the first thing, the metaphor reminded me of when I was taking improv classes. There's a form, I think it's called the Herald. I don't totally remember, but the basic idea is you find a game, right? Because you're all improvising and the game arises collaboratively. Like nobody knows what the game is until one person says something and it's repeated back, and then a motif starts, and then we're all kind of playing on the motif. And then at some point at the end, something from the beginning comes back in, and it's very satisfying because you have this kind of climax or something, you know, and you see this in like Saturday Night Live skits and this medium, you see it all the time. And it was really rewarding for me to watch in this because, one, you brought back something from before.
That's right.
John. And then Michael, you responded and you ended up bringing back a metaphor from before in response. And it really felt like there was a nice evolution that had happened.
That's right. And I think another way of describing that is the recursion of recursion.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Bateson would love that.
Yeah, yes. Sure.
It's a very Batesonian idea. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm so glad that we're doing this, Seth, because I've really, I feel like working with Michael and you and I taking these different perspectives on one another as we model, we get to be better modelers for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that benefits whoever we're working with. But I think there's also something evolutionary happening in our species that we're able to do this at all.
Mm-hmm.
Who are we that we can go meta this way?
Yeah.
Because I think the more ways we go meta with intention, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Going meta all the time, just like you don't have to be a Tai Chi master to be using energy.
Yeah.
We're doing this all the time, but can we do it in a way that supports our best values? And that's, I think, where we're at this juncture civilizationally.
Right.
That's a big chunk. I apologize for going that far, but I think it does have something to do with what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's sort of the background of our exploration.
If I can report, and listening to you guys going back and forth, so this is my reporting and feeling into the openness that I was, it was happening. It tapped into, because one of the things, I have to digress, one of the things Focus taught me, and I didn't realize this is what it was teaching me at the time that I was practicing it, is to relax the tension between my conscious mind and whatever is non-conscious or outside my conscious. To relax that tension, that comes from our defense systems. I'm being a broken record about that, but
and what kind of broken record?
What kind of broken record?
How broken is that broken record?
Yeah, it's magic carpet ride. Good one, John.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow.
That's all right. That's all right. No problem. We're improving. Anyway, I read Focusing when I was 24. I went hitchhiking across America, and it goes to something that Seth says, along for the ride, being safe in a car. Well, I purposely put myself in situations where my instinct of whether I could trust somebody, get in a car and ride with people across America. And when you said that, it reminded me of, or it brought up probably why I have a certain flexibility, kind of flexibility of being in the moment with that tension. Is it safe or is it not?
Cool.
It was stimulated by what you said, Seth, and the conversation with you and John. So I just want to put that out there, and I'm really grateful because you know how sometimes you have these little nuggets that you don't know that you have that are they're a part of that part of your healthy being.
Sure. Very cool. Yeah, very cool to stumble upon a nugget.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I hitchhiked as well. That's how I moved to New York first from California.
Oh, cool.
My brother and I hitchhiked over here, and
yeah.
How
long have you been there?
9 years.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, terrible accident. Don't know how that happened.
Yeah. And I've always found, hitchhiking is one of my great metaphors that I like to use, but I'm not always obvious about it.
Cool.
Because to me, entering a conversation with somebody is like, okay, I'm hitching a ride.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Because I agree with John. Metaphor, I'm totally into the idea of that part of language and how metaphors, that part of language of metaphors affects how we think, feel, everything.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I think it's a sort of a baseline in a sense that. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm reading a book right now, Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson. Is that his name? Do you guys know that book? It's I guess a really seminal cyberpunk novel from like 1992.
What's it called?
Snow Crash.
I've read Crash.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite novels ever.
Yeah.
So Snow Crash, I always knew I wanted to read it because the first chapter is this absurd, like super high octane, really violent, but super self-aware and just ridiculous chapter about a pizza delivery man called the Deliverator, like just gun-toting his car at 400 miles an hour because he has to get the pizza delivered. But so the book is great, but there's, speaking of the hitchhiking metaphor, there's a theme in it of these couriers who have these magnetic harpoons that they throw onto the side of a car and aggressively hitch a ride, and the cars are trying to knock them off, but the couriers are too skilled on their skateboards, so they're like, it's really cool.
I love that. I love that description.
Yeah, it's a sweet book.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we have about half an hour. Is everybody, does anyone need to take a break or anything?
I'm good.
I'm good, John. I'm good.
I was wondering now if we could turn our attention to Seth and when healing at your best. Is there anything else about healing? When at your best?
Huh. It's it radiates.
It radiates. And when it radiates, is there anything else about it? When it radiates?
Well, I suppose it's looking outward. It's not hoarding anything. It's sharing it. It's expanding its view and reach. The metaphor, as I mentioned, I've been using lately is the sun, and I've been meditating a lot on the tarot card, Crowley's tarot card for the sun specifically. So that's the image I am seeing.
And looking outward and sharing and expanding and sun. And when sun, is there anything else about radiation?
It's warm. Yeah. I had a metaphor come up, but I don't like it, so I'm just going to say it's warm.
And it's warm.
Yeah.
And when warm, whereabouts warm?
Solar plexus.
And warm and solar plexus. And whereabouts solar plexus when warm?
I suppose I think of the heart, but I always kind of felt like this sense of like displacement with the metaphor of the heart, because for example, there's chakra systems that use a heart chakra, and there's some that use a solar plexus, and then sometimes they're coordinated and sometimes they're not. And I always think about the heart as like the centermost part of me, I guess. It's somewhat central in my body. It's where the cross of my body meets in the middle, but I don't see from there. Like in my actual experience right now, it seems like the center of me is like here, and then the heart is off somewhere else. And I'm like, why is the center over there? What's going on?
And center of me is there, and the heart is somewhere over there.
Yeah.
And what's going on?
Yeah.
And what would you like to have happen when heart is over there?
There's I'm getting the classical descriptions of the geometry of the soul is generally spherical, and like Plotinus talks about the sphere of light and all these Proclus and all these guys. But I think that's there's something there. It's like, that's what I want, is this perfect shape.
And a perfect shape. That's what you want.
Yes.
And when you want that perfect shape, what kind of a want is that?
It's a soft want. It's expansive in its own, kind of like a custard.
A soft want, expansion, kind of like a custard.
Yes.
And then what happens?
Mm. It's kind of like maybe a laying down. It's a bit of a dissolving of membranes, kind of a feeling. Kind of like an embrace. It's very pleasurable. Lots of colors. Floating.
And lay down and dissolving and embrace, pleasurable colors. And then what happens to heart?
Hmm. Well, then it seems like it's not as concerned with the location of it, or maybe that it's perceiving location differently. Like, it's not a thing that's over there, or so I'm told. It's just so simple. Just bam, this.
And then what happens to want something perfect?
Wow, did I say that? I don't remember.
Or spherical?
Oh, right, I remember. Well, it seems like those are maybe descriptions for something, but I just need to not get hung up on the description, because the sensation of it, you could, like what I was just feeling kind of now and a moment ago, is like this simple thing, which could be described with all those words. Those make sense. But I don't want to just be like yearning after a sphere here instead of just noticing the sphere, right? It's simpler than that, I suppose.
And it's simpler than that. And heart, and so with all of that,
Yeah.
what happens to solar plexus?
Uh, well, I have this image in my head of, I've heard that the solar plexus is called that because it has like a solar-like splaying out of nerves, but I've never seen this. And I have an image in my head of like it sounds really twisted and morbid, but of like an H.R. Giger painting with just like all these weird biomorphic, like going all over. But it's really beautiful and really well executed and quite nice.
I love it.
Feels good.
Can we pause?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good. That was interesting. Because I noticed you were very fluid with the metaphorical and the conceptual. And you were able to go back and forth very fluidly. And I didn't feel like when you went conceptually, how do I say this? Well, fluid, but that the concept and the percept supported one another.
Mm.
So I feel like you could go from percept to concept, and then from concept to percept.
Sure.
In a very integrated way. Whereas,
Interesting.
and that's not something that I see in everybody, because some people go into concept and never leave, and they're so removed from anything perceptual. And then there's some people who are so into their perceptual space that they can't think about anything.
Yeah.
And then there's those of us who are somewhere in between, but it's sometimes not as fluid as we'd like it to be. But I think the practice of clean language and meditation and perhaps magic have always, often I think persons who are attracted to the healing arts in general tend to be very aware of this
Mm.
split in our culture, that
Sure.
Newtonian split between concept and percept.
Mm.
And I think this is I'm chunking really big here, but I think we're modeling time and space.
Mm.
And I think we're changing how we do business, really.
Hmm.
I think that's slow and sure. Maybe slow, too slow for some of us, but I think maybe another generation, maybe your generation, Seth, the generation after you, will be doing business differently than the way we are, than the way we have been.
Certainly.
And I think we're in this big collision, and I think we can maybe start to collude rather than collide. I think there's good forms of collusion. I hope we could figure out what those are.
Yeah.
As we move from one generation to the next generation with a handful of metaphors that we've inherited, we try to do the best, and then we add some new metaphors to it, and we pass it on. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great because we have an intergenerational discourse event happening right here, and I think this is, a very good sign because I think we need this.
Definitely.
We need this kind of, not that I'm an ageist or anything, because I don't think anyone should be constrained by how old they are, because we all know there are 4-year-olds who are brilliant. Actually, all 4-year-olds are brilliant. So I think there's some usefulness in doing the healthy age regression so that we
Sure.
can tap into those resources. So I just had to say that because I wanted to maybe go into a summary phase. We have about 15 minutes here.
Cool.
And I want to maybe we didn't get a chance. Wait, we did everybody. Everyone got a chance to do their metaphor of healing at your best. I think that's great that we did that. And when we review this archive when it becomes available, Seth, I hope you'll get a chance to look at it. Maybe you will too, Michael. And we could then go to another layer of investigation.
That sounds fun.
Having this introduction to one another and to this way of working. And
Yeah.
how I contribute to the learning curve of the whole community here at Cosmos. Because I think there are many of us who would benefit from this.
Yeah, instead of flattening the curve, let's have a curve.
Totally.
Yeah. So the question I'd like to ask is, and I guess I've already started doing this myself, is what do you know now? This is something, by the way, and I think I shared this with you, Seth. I went to the Healing Center and I heard all these physicists and mathematicians talking, and they were getting very, very theoretical. I think I showed this to you.
Yeah,
Seth.
cool.
But I remember asking them, what do you know now that you didn't know at the beginning of this conversation?
Mm-hmm.
And what difference does knowing that make?
Mm.
So I think it's a good question to ask just in general.
Yeah.
And I think I learned this from, who did I get it from? James, I think. I got it from James Lawley.
Hmm.
I got it from he probably got it from Grove, from David Grove.
Cool.
So I'm going to try this out on you guys. So Michael,
Yes.
what do you know now that you didn't know at the beginning of this conversation? And what difference does knowing that make?
Well, what I know now is I've met Seth, and I've been in a triangle of communicating across a flat screen, which I think is not flat. It appears flat, but there's energy flowing both ways. And what I know now too is that out of this, I have a lot more to be thankful for within me of my ability to communicate and express myself. And the difference that makes is when I leave this cafe, it will inform how I interact with people in my day-to-day life. And especially people close to me, like my children, friends, and people I meet on the street.
And grateful and thankful and inform friends and family and people you meet on the street. And knowing that, what difference does knowing that make?
The difference of when we began this conversation, I was in a level 5 agitation with the stress of what's going on in the world today and in my particular location. And now it's probably 0.000.1.
Wow.
0.1.
I'm exaggerating, but on purpose.
Cool.
And knowing that, what difference does knowing that make?
It makes my heart space beat very calmly.
Ah, and heart space beat very calmly. And what, knowing that, heart space calmly, what difference does knowing that make?
Oh, I just go back to my go-to. I have more wiggle giggle in my system.
Wiggle giggle. Great. Thank you. I think I
You're
did
welcome.
5 of those. Did I do 4 or 5 iterations of that?
Uh,
Wasn't counting.
I think James did 6.
Mm,
And
sure.
what difference does knowing that make? And he asked it 6 times.
oh,
Mhm.
But you got to the wiggle giggle, so I feel like that's a perfect.
okay.
And Seth. How did I start for this question? Knowing what you know now. No, that's not it. I'm already spacing out here.
What part of it's what difference does knowing that make, right?
Right. The way it goes is and what do you know now
Mm,
that you didn't know before this conversation started? And what
right.
difference does knowing that make?
Right. Cool. Well, there's several things I can think of. One, yeah, I learned that I'm capable of this screen interaction stuff, which I'm usually pretty uncomfortable with. Uh, Another, I feel my heart space has opened up quite a bit as well from this. Had a lot of tensions before we started the call, and I feel really good now. Another, as I really resonated with I think, Michael, you said the metaphor of attunement, which I think you said is EDS, maybe, attunement, which is something I really want to go out and play with today because I just really like that one. And I think it fits into some kind of evolving thoughts I have in my head with quarantine time. And then I learned from that healing questioning section. What was it? Oh, something about, yeah, I still have to develop it because I don't totally understand it. But this thing I was saying about the simplicity of being without necessarily relying on sort of mental cognitive position, if that makes sense. Not just because supposedly something is over here doesn't mean I have to be bound by that, I guess.
And capable of working on the screen,
Mm-hmm.
and heart space more open, and attunement, and that simplicity. And knowing all of that, what difference does knowing that make?
It makes the whole world kind of seems to sparkle a little bit. It reminds me of something someone wrote who I can't remember who it was or what they said, but it's something about the world sparkling.
And the world sparkling.
Yeah.
And what difference does knowing that make?
Well, I'm more present, which I think is where my power really lies. And I think that's part of the lesson I'm learning with, losing my jobs as I did and losing so many things that contributed to identity for me, whether I was aware of it or not. I'm learning a lot about where my power lies, which is present and is unreliant on externals.
And what difference does knowing that make?
I hope it will allow me to make the best and healthiest decisions for a wider spectrum of whoever I am around.
Thank you. I think we did 6.
Wow.
1, 2,
Cool.
3, 4, 5, 6. We hit the jackpot.
Awesome.
I want you to do that with me. Can you do that one with me?
Yeah. Can you tell me one more time what the wording is?
Yeah. It's and what you know now that you didn't know before this conversation began. And what difference does knowing that make?
All right.
And then you reiterate 6 times, I think, or 5 times.
Mm-hmm. So
So, you already
6
have,
is...
so 6 is the...
Got you. Okay. So John, what do you know now that you didn't know, and what difference does knowing that make?
Well, I know now that I can get together with competent, compatible people in a short amount of time and make something happen, which is great, because I didn't know if we could even pull this off. Well, Doug couldn't make it for very good reasons, but I find sometimes these screen appearances can be very stressful for me, because if someone's in Australia, someone's in Germany, you know, you're trying to get a conference call happening, and it's sometimes extremely hard to pull it off. But we pulled it off. And we're in 2 different time zones, and I think on short notice, and I believe we've had a very good time. I think we've all enjoyed one another's company, and we're becoming more skillful in our as communicators and as human beings.
Nice. And becoming more skillful, and we pulled it off and can make something happen, and competent, compatible people, and can get together. And what difference does knowing all of this make?
Well, that this sounds sort of arrogant, that there are such thing as compatible, competent people. I thought we were short supply, but maybe I'm wrong about that, or I'm a little more open to doubt.
All right. Nice. A little more open to doubt. And that there are such thing as competent and compatible people. And what difference does knowing that make?
Well, that actually lifts a burden off of my shoulders. That's great, because I don't have to be the only serious, hardworking, thinking person on the planet. There are a few others. That's a very good sign.
Nice.
Because sometimes I do feel a bit burdened by some stuff that's probably not mine to be burdened by, but I get a little over caught up in that bodhisattva vow, you know.
Sure. And a little caught up in that bodhisattva vow, and I don't have to be the only one, and lifts a burden off of my shoulders. And what difference does knowing all of that make?
That we're distributing knowledge, that we're creating knowledge communities together here on this site. And when Michael goes in his direction, Seth goes in his direction, you both will be doing that in whatever communities you're members of. And I think this is a very generative way of practicing what we preach. So rather than just coming up with lovely concepts, we're actually, I think, somatizing what healing at our best. And I think that generates a different kind of discourse and capacities in our society at large.
And different kind of capacities and discourse in our society at large, and somatizing healing at our best, and creating knowledge communities together, distributing knowledge and generative. And what difference does knowing all that make?
I don't have to leave my body. To feel safe.
And I don't have to leave my body to feel safe. And when I don't have to leave my body to feel safe, what difference does knowing that make?
That I have healed.
That I have healed.
Leave bows, everybody.
Yes.
Blessings to all of you.
Blessings.
And this has been a wonderful time. I've learned a lot, and I'm really looking forward to the next episode. And maybe we can make this happen again in the not too distant future, since we've got a lot more time on our hands, right?
I would love
Yeah.
that. I would love that.
I'm totally in agreement. And John, your last answer to the question about feeling safe within the body, that's been my journey for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice.
And I'm hoping that whoever gets a chance to see this, I hope Doug gets a chance to see that we can orchestrate another event where Doug can join us, because we've already started a landscape, his psychic metaphorical landscape is already starting to emerge, and he posted a drawing. And it's really cool that even though that was my intention to focus our attention on that didn't happen, but something else happened.
That exactly.
So I was able to be flexible in my behavior. You know how it is when you have a plan, this is what we're going to do. I got it all in a box here and I can handle it. And all of a sudden you realize, oh, throw that out.
Yeah.
So you went with plan B.
Yeah. and you guys were you assisted me and you directed my attention to where my attention needed to go. So I'm very grateful for that. And it's great that we have this archive now so we can study it, and those of us who are interested in that kind of thing and go to another level if we want to.
Yeah, I can't wait to review it myself and check it out.
Yeah, same.
Very good.
And I also just wanted to mention how stunned I am at how good a time we are.
Yes.
Usually doing modeling stuff, it can go, but it's 2:00 right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is what I call disciplined flow.
Yeah.
When you're over at my place and we're working on this stuff, we got a lot of flow, but we're not always disciplined. I know we can go a lot of different directions. So
Sure.
I think there's something about knowing that you're recording something that galvanizes attention. So you're absolutely right about it.
Interesting.
So thank you so much.
Yes, of course.
Have a great day. Stay healthy, everybody.
Yep. Yeah, it was
Just a
wonderful to
minute.
meet you, Michael.
Just a minute. Yeah, wonderful to meet you. My son's Skyping me, so I'm trying to do two things. Let's do this again, guys. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We will.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Oh, by the way, Seth, you can post, if you want to go onto the site, you can post any drawings or anything you want to talk about there.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
What is this? What's the
I think
site?
you can register and
the metapsychosis.
yes, it's the Cosmos. I think it's the Cosmos.
Okay.
This will be posted. I'll send you a link to it.
Yeah, send me a link and I'll get on
Just to let you know that. Okay, blessings.
John. Yep. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.